This time on the Q Division podcast, we open the case of 1987's The Living Daylights.
This episode, how complicated can a cello case sled really be?
Timothy Dalton learns why you should not whistle while you work.
And we say goodbye to John Barry.
All that and more on this episode of the Q Division. Hello, agents. Welcome to another episode of the Q Division. I'm Gavin, and I've seen all the James Bond movies.
And I'm Chels, and I've seen 17 in a TV special. How have we done? Is this really 18 episodes?
Mm-hmm. And
What?
You're like almost at 20. We got to start doing some special missions to do some things that like James Bond inspired as well too, just to pad out, because I think once we get into the 90s, which is sort of the resurgence of Bond mania, it's gonna be tough to talk about it without talking about all the stuff that happened before as well too.
This is like my takeover of the podcast is the 90s era where we start adding all of the fake James Bond movies is what I'm calling them, or the TV things that I'm like, this seems fun. Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to it.
People aren't ready. The Q Division's top secret mission is to take a deeper look at the history and impact of the James Bond films and other media through a queer lens. Speaking of, the Q Division is a proud member of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. You can find out more about Glitterjaw at glitterjaw.com.
But this episode, we knew that we needed someone special to help us out. And so we got an agent who's returning to us from our music supervision department, a highly decorated agent here at the Q Division, award-winning film composer, musician, and deeply knowledgeable Bond fan, Michael Llewyn Barker. Welcome to the show, Michael. Welcome back to the show. You're our first returning guest.
A Q Division All-Star.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this episode, but I genuinely thank you because we haven't seen you since we did The Man with the Golden Gun. And I know The Man with the Golden Gun was not your first choice. You were a last minute fill-in and you aced it. You were such a good guest. And it was so nice to talk to you about James Bond. And so I'm very happy to be able to have you here for the film you actually picked originally, which is The Living Daylights. And just really happy to have you back.
Thank you very much. I'm happy always to talk about James Bond no matter what.
Since you were last on, I actually got a hold of the 30 Years of James Bond special that you mentioned that you watched as a kid and rewatched that. And it's interesting, too, because it's Dalton coming off of the next James Bond movie, License to Kill, but sort of, not in the sort of pessimistic Dalton we see a couple years after that, when he's still very much in it and very much like James Bond's going to go on forever. And we'll talk about that more in the License to Kill episode. But I think it's an interesting thing to see Dalton where he's still very positive on the series. You mentioned before your origin story with James Bond and how it actually kind of connects into Dalton. Do you remember what it was about Dalton specifically that got you into James Bond?
I'm not sure because, let's say, I think that it was the second Bond film that I saw. I think I saw it, and I think it was like literally within a week. So I think I saw Octopussy earlier on that week, and then later on, The Living Daylights. And I can't say for sure, but I think it was probably the sort of premiere of it on terrestrial UK television, and then that documentary 30 Years of James Bond was on afterwards. So it's quite, I haven't seen Connery or any of the others at this point, apart from Roger in Octopussy, which isn't the coolest of a James Bond there's been. Although
What are you talking about? No, I'm with you. I understand.
Yeah. So I think, and certainly as it's grown, I think there's something very, very cool about Dalton. And personally, I think he's the most handsome as well, actually. And I think he's also, 100% the best actor, technical actor at least, that has done it. So I guess it's a combination of those things.
I will agree with you because as much as I've enjoyed all the other Bonds, I think what has made them almost enjoyable is that they're not the best actors. And that kind of plays into some of these movies not being, shall we say, the best. Yes, I do love Moonraker, but I love it in the campy way. And Dalton is just like, he's very sexy. And I'm just like, oh, these movies. Although I am laughing because I can imagine going from Octopussy to this and being like, what a tonal shift. What is going on here? It's like, are
Yeah.
these the same franchise?
Right. Exactly. It's so funny too because I think it's easy to forget that Dalton is like a royally trained Shakespeare actor. And that's once again not to say anything bad about the previous James Bonds because everybody in this audience knows how much I love Roger Moore,
Oh, we love him.
how much I like George Lazenby, how much I think Sean Connery is the template. But Sean Connery was like a film actor, and George Lazenby was a model, and Roger Moore was a TV star. And so here you have like a royally trained star of stage and screen, a man that had been making fucking movies with Katharine Hepburn.
I was about to say, he made one of my favorite, like, Oscar-y, like, movies, and it is also kinda campy, and I love it, but I'm just like, he's like a real actor, and it's kinda weird to see a real actor do this.
And I know we're not even into the production yet, but he's like heavily involved. And I think he actually kind of creates a trend of actors being a little more involved in the way that they see the character and steering the series itself, in a direction, which is not to say that Connery wasn't involved, though by the end he fucking hated them so much that I'm sure he didn't say anything. And Lazenby was so young. Roger Moore got his way quite a bit, but Roger Moore's kind of a relaxed guy, kind of a lean back, let's do it. I'm not going to be doing that stunt. I'll be in my trailer, thank you. And Dalton is like, I want to be hanging off the side of a car. I want to tell you how I'm going to do this scene. And that's a fascinating change, I think, especially for a series that's been so lockstep under a specific guiding
Mhm.
force, and that being Cubby Broccoli. And once again, these movies are very collaborative, and I don't want to take that away from anybody. They write them with a lot of people. They work with the stunt supervisors, but in the end, Cubby is the end all be all. And to come in as the new Bond and be like, actually, why don't we try this? It's a gutsy move.
Although Cubby did want to bring the movies back to something more akin to the original, it was by no means a unanimous or an overwhelming decision.
Was it not?
No. Everybody has their opinions about a Bond.
Yes, that's true.
You cannot escape anyone working for the movies, in the movies, or in the street who doesn't know what they want out of Bond.
Yes.
But everyone is committed. It's a wonderful group of people.
Really?
And we got on with it and perhaps put in place some building blocks for a change in the direction of the series.
Yeah, like, I've been comparing a lot of these movies that Tom Cruise just watched them and just wants to do all these stunts. This one felt like the most, "Oh, Tom Cruise is trying to be this Bond." Like, this felt the most Mission Impossible serious, like, you can follow the plot. I feel like this is the plot of what is Ghost Protocol? Is that the one? It feels like half the plot of Ghost Protocol is this. I'm like,
This does
"Okay."
this does feel like it has one of the most spy-y type
Yeah.
plots.
And it is also very easy for me to follow, which is not something I can always say in these movies.
Is this the second James Bond that you saw, Michael?
I believe so.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's wild. I didn't start I mean, I started with VHS Roger Moore's, but my first in theater was Tomorrow Never Dies, but I think I'm actually older than you, so I could have I could have seen this in the theater and just did it. But that's really fascinating. And what an interesting, yeah, as Chels was saying, tonal change from something like
Yeah.
Octopussy. Chels, how are you feeling? I know you sort of had your say already, but
This, again, the tonal shift is the biggest change because I was like, oh, they went a complete 180. I was texting some friends. This is like going from Batman and Robin to Batman Begins. And again, I love both versions of that. I was just not ready for the hard shift. I was like, oh, okay, there. And the opening, like, makes me it made me think it might have been a little sillier because it felt kinda meta commentary on James Bond and whatnot. Very the Australian model one on Her Majesty's Secret Service,
Yeah.
that opening, but then I'm just like, "Oh, no, this is a serious movie. I need to actually pay attention to what's going on."
Well, you're gonna be in store because there's even more Batman Begins ahead. It's a little bit from now, but yeah,
They keep
and
beginning.
they keep beginning. It's a mix of it's still got a little bit of that more silliness to it. And I'm not saying plot wise. I think this is actually like a very kind of serious contemporary plot for a James Bond film, but I
Mhm.
think that there is still a lot of areas where they're trying to inject that humor and
I think it's in the romance, honestly. Like,
yeah,
the way he romances the Bond girl, it felt very Roger Moore, and maybe that's why I liked him.
yeah, and they're very good together. They really are.
Mhm. They have great chemistry. I'm like, "Oh."
All right, well then let's get into it. Why don't I start with the book? Even though we're very much running out of books. In fact, the next movie doesn't really have a book except for a film adaptation written by John Gardner, I believe, which I do have, and maybe I will read for the next episode. But this is kind of our last taken from a book until we get to the Daniel Craig era. But as previously mentioned in a previous episode, the short story is in the same collection as Octopussy, and it's a simple one, barely 30 pages, involving Bond being tasked to eliminate a KGB sniper codenamed Trigger, who has been sent to kill Agent 272, who will be crossing a no man's land as part of his escape from East Berlin. On all 3 nights of his surveillance, Bond witnesses a beautiful blonde cellist as she's coming to and from the orchestra. On the final night, as 272 makes his escape run, Bond spots that the cellist is in fact the assassin known as Trigger, and he shoots her weapon instead, saving her life and 272's in the process. The story itself is good, and so much of the focus of it is on the fact that Bond hates his job and sees it basically as his true calling, that he couldn't do anything else. And once again, the story really pushes the narrative that Bond is fully against the idea of killing in cold blood as it goes against his moral code, which actually, even though he reread all the books before getting the part, is the opposite of what Dalton takes away from Ian Fleming's books. And I think that's an interesting, like Dalton has said in many interviews, James Bond kills in cold blood. And it's like, nobody, that's the film James Bond. That's not the book James Bond. The story from this book fully serves as the basis for the first portion of this film. So, if you're wondering why it sounded familiar. In terms of production, we knew this day would come, that we would have to say goodbye to Roger Moore, and thus the search for a new James Bond was on. And while many auditioned for the role, it truly came down to a big 3. Sam Neill from New Zealand, Welsh-born Timothy Dalton, and Irish native Pierce Brosnan. So let's start with Neill, who in his audition caught the eye of both Dana and Barbara Broccoli, producer Michael G. Wilson, and returning director John Glenn. But Albert R. Broccoli couldn't see it.
So you're Tatiana Romanova.
My friends call me Tanya.
My friends call me Bond. James Bond.
There's great audition tapes of Sam Neill. It's once again the same situation with Mr. James Brolin, where he's doing the scene from Russia with Love, and they're doing the My Mouth is Big Enough. And Sam Neill's good. And I don't know what it was. If maybe it was the light hair. Broccoli just didn't see it.
Here's the thing. I've not watched the audition stuff, but just thinking of Sam Neill as an actor, and I've seen a lot of his filmography, I don't see the vision.
Interesting.
I
You're
don't.
signing with Albert R.
I
Broccoli.
think he could be a good villain, though.
Yes. Oh, well, especially now.
Yes, especially now.
Michael, do you have any opinion on Sam Neill?
I agree. I can't see it.
Ha, yes.
But I think that's, that's just because this is Dalton's film and I can't imagine anyone else doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe
I
it's
get
just
that.
because I don't think he's sexy enough to do this.
Oh, he looks really good with his shirt off in the test, and they make you take your shirt off in the test. They know what they're
Hey,
doing.
I watch soap operas. I have seen so many hot people who just don't have the juice.
So the next pick, of course, was Pierce Brosnan, who, as we previously mentioned, met with Albert R. Broccoli on the set of For Your Eyes Only because his wife was in the film, and he spends 3 days screen testing for the role. And they're like, this is it. We found him. However, Brosnan at the time was the star of the NBC show Remington Steele, which luckily had just been canceled due to sagging ratings. However, when this was announced that Brosnan was soon to be Bond, NBC decided to renew the show after the interest reappeared. They had 3 days left on their option. Basically, Pierce Brosnan has said he was ready to go out and announce it, and the phone rang right as he was going to announce it.
I was with him in LA to handle the announcement, and we were going to have this big press conference.
Thank you.
And Pierce was just the happiest person you could be.
It's day 60. We're off to the races. And the phone rang as I was walking out, and I thought, should I answer it? I thought, I better answer the phone. Hello?
Until recently, the new 007 was to have been TV's Remington Steele, Pierce Brosnan. He apparently missed out on the part when NBC decided to pick up the MTM-produced series after it had been canceled.
And the man was absolutely shattered.
It wasn't until about 6 months later, I think, that I really began to kind of have a whiplash effect. I drove down the Pacific Coast Highway, billboards of Tim everywhere as Bond. I was gutted, thinking of the possibilities that could have been. Why did it go so wrong? There was a lot of pain, a lot of sadness there, anger, because you really felt, that you were just manipulated, and, the people who did it, just short people, and they know who they are, and we work together, I see these people, but you have to let that go, and it took a while, I didn't realize it. I mean, when it first happened, I was nonplussed. I mean, because Cassie, my wife, and the children were all thinking, well, we were relocating ourselves back to London. We'd sent the children to boarding school, and it certainly didn't happen. But life is like that, and certainly an actor's life is like that. It's just that in that particular case, it was very high profile.
Unfortunately, with this renewal, Broccoli pulled his offer as he didn't want Bond to be associated with a TV show airing at the same time. And he was quoted as saying, quote, "Remington Steele will not be James Bond."
And the edict from Cubby was that Remington Steele will not be James Bond. So that was the end of the deal.
With the taking back of the offer, the interest in Remington Steele once again waned, and only 5 new episodes were made before NBC canceled it again permanently.
That is fucking petty. Too bad he was never James Bond and he only did
Yeah.
Mamma Mia movies from here on out.
We never heard of Pierce Brosnan again.
Never saw that, Mrs. Doubtfire.
So Dana Broccoli ends up suggesting Timothy Dalton for the role, but Broccoli himself was still sour over his past refusals of the role. And if you want to hear more about that, you can check out our episodes on Her Majesty's Secret Service and Octopussy for those stories. Also, he did get a mention right before they cast Pierce Brosnan, but he couldn't do it because he was busy filming Brenda Starr. However, he had finished shooting Brenda Starr by the time NBC rolled around and canceled Pierce Brosnan's contract. So he kind of came around to starring in the role. And also, they did play him a bit. They told him they were still auditioning people. They held some fake auditions. It's very Drag Race Season 2 coded, where they're holding auditions even though they've already cast the role.
Yeah.
And finally, Timothy Dalton, I guess from a hotel airport, called them and said, "All right, I'm in."
I was about 24, 25 then. Had a good career as a young man in films, having done The Lion in Winter, Cromwell, Mary Queen of Scots, Wuthering Heights. And Mr. Broccoli very kindly asked me if I'd be interested. I think Bond should be between about 35 and 40. And as a 25, 26-year-old, it would not have been right. I was much too young, but don't forget, Connery was so damn good. It would have been a bit dumb to take over from Connery, I think. He originated it, he hit the burst upon the world with it, and I'd got a good career going in movies as a young man with Lion in Winter and Wuthering Heights and Mary Queen of Scots. To follow Connery was not a good idea.
Half the world loved Sean Connery. Half the world loved Roger Moore. They might all combine together and hate me, which fortunately didn't happen. But I mean, it's a big concern. Taking over is difficult.
He's like, fine, but I have notes.
Also during Weintraub, the chairman of MGM UA Communications at the time told them that they should just hire Mel Gibson with a $10 million contract for 2 pictures. But Broccoli wasn't interested in Mel Gibson at all, which I think is excellent foresight on Mr. Broccoli's part.
Truly the crystal ball.
Yeah, God, that would be awful.
Yeah, that would be awful. Yeah, absolutely.
Gavin, I am sick now. I would actually be sick, would not show up if Mel Gibson was a James Bond. I would not show up for those podcasts.
We wouldn't cover them. I wouldn't.
Thank goodness.
It wouldn't be
'Cause
worth
no.
it. Can you imagine Mel Gibson?
Well, I'm trying to imagine it now, and for some reason, I picture him just running around in like a denim shirt, open, and and just
Like,
being.
If you've seen his Hamlet, I feel like we know what we would get. They showed us that in high school. I do not know why they showed us that one. Probably to save me from the Kenneth Branagh.
I think an interesting thing, because often a lot of people compare License to Kill with Lethal Weapon, don't they?
Yeah.
And I don't, I can't imagine Mel Gibson doing License to Kill either.
No.
So,
I can't either. And License to Kill is, I often say this when I'm talking about it, is the most 80s Miami Vice James Bond. And so I'm excited for you to see it, Chels, to know what you'll think about it. But I still think the thing that makes it work for the most part is Dalton. And I think if it was, there's just something, besides what we know about Mel Gibson now, but what we didn't know about him then, there's just something scuzzy about him. And I hate to say it,
Also, if you've seen the movie Year of Living Dangerously and whatnot,
Yeah.
and if you've seen Mel Gibson movies, it's yes, he was a box office star, but he's not a great actor. We're
Right.
really making some stuff up, y'all. If you go watch those are some bad. Even Lethal Weapon, he's not the person you think of when you think of
Right.
Lethal Weapon.
You think of Danny Glover. Yeah. It's true.
Obviously.
Who was mid-40s when he was too old for that shit. And I'm nearing that. So congratulations. I'm reaching it. I'm too old for this shit age.
We are the Roger Moores. We are no, we are not walking down those stairs. We will break something.
Nope. You can get the stuntman to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton said that he wanted there to be a separation between his and Moore's Bond, speaking of Roger Moore, as he had previously in the past said he didn't like the direction they had taken the character during Moore's era. He told the New York Times in 1987, quote, "I felt it would be wrong to pluck the character out of thin air or base him on any of my predecessors' interpretations. Instead, I went to the man who created him, and I was astonished. I read a couple books years ago, and I thought I'd find them trivial now. But I thoroughly enjoyed every one. It's not just that they've a terrific sense of adventure and you get very involved. On those pages, I discovered a Bond I'd never seen on screen, a quite extraordinary man, a man I really wanted to play, a man of contradictions and opposites." And I think that goes back to the idea that Bond fucking hates his job, but also thinks he's the only man who can do it.
The first question you ask a producer is, what do you want of me? Do you want me to carry on in the vein that's been set? Or do you want to set off on a new course? The safe, the easy answer is to say, stick with it as it is. In which case, I guess I'd have said no. Roger was brilliant at what he did, but I couldn't simply copy what he'd done. The movies have become somewhat pastiche. Before you go too long, you've become a parody of yourself. You've lost depth, you've lost texture, you've lost contradictions. You start to get shallow. What makes these movies work? What is it that got them going? You've got to go back to the beginning. Here was a hero who murdered in cold blood. Bam, 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 bam. The dirtiest, toughest, meanest, nastiest, brutalist hero we'd ever seen. This is what started those movies. I wanted to bring people back to believing in this character, to bring my reality to it. I guess I've always liked a challenge.
He's a man that fulfills a lot of fantasies, I think probably both male and female. I suppose a lot of women in the audience feel that maybe if it was them, just them, I could do it, you know. Whether you call them strengths or weaknesses, I mean, hard drinking, hard smoking, hard driving, womanizing. If you're working as a secret agent, you can't become emotionally involved. But having set that up, that hard side to the man's character, he then always had a moment of vulnerability when he fell for a woman.
I mean, I kind of agree. I see it in, it's definitely in the writing of this, but also his performance. I really see that struggle.
There's a moment later on in this film, and you know, maybe I should bring it up when we're talking about the plot, but there's a moment where his contact is killed at the fair, and there's like what could be a very soapy moment where he kind of cheats out to the camera. He like moves into the foreground, cheats out, and he's like talking to Miriam Dabo, and he's so good at delivering this like burning inferno inside of himself, but trying to like keep it calm
Yeah.
in a way that like I don't like. Once again, comparisons to Thief of Joy, but like but like when Connery exploded, he exploded, and Moore just never exploded. Really, he'd get angry, but like Dalton, I'm afraid of.
He's scary,
Yeah.
scary. Roger Moore's never scary, scary. He's like a teddy bear.
Yeah. In terms of the rest of the cast, Marion Dabo was cast as the lead Bond woman. Cellist Cara Milvoy. She had previously auditioned for Paula Ivanova in A View to a Kill, but in an interview with 007.com in 2021, Dabo said Glenn had remembered her from the audition, and when she ran into Barbara Broccoli at a health spa, Barbara Broccoli complimented her on her new look as Dabo had her hair cut into a short bob for another movie, and I guess Barbara was like, she's the one, we should hire her. So I love that it was just the haircut. They were like, yeah, she was good in that audition. And Barbara Broccoli's like, have you seen that bitch's hair? She looks great.
Hey, a cunty bob will get you far in life.
It truly will. Walter Gotell returned for his final appearance as General Gogol, but the character of Leonid Pushkin, played by John Rhys-Davies, was created when Gotell proved too sick for a larger role in the film. And that really bums me out because I really think as a final appearance of Gogol, this would have been fun to have him so involved in the plot.
Mhm.
But it's always nice to see them trying to create this like weird continuity between the films, even though James Bond is 20 years younger now somehow.
Mhm.
Joe Don Baker was cast as arms dealer Brad Whitaker, and Dutch actor-director Jeroen Krabbe was cast as General Georgi Koskov. I'm terrible with names and pronunciations. You guys are just going to have to bear with me. Also, as mentioned in the previous episode, feeling the new blood was needed for Miss Moneypenny, Carolyn Bliss was cast to match the younger Bond. Chels, I know how you feel about our darling, lovely Miss Moneypenny. How did you feel that Carolyn Bliss did in her very limited role?
That's the thing. It was so limited, and it's no disrespect to her, but I could also never pick her out of a lineup. Like,
I kind of feel the same. It's
but they also didn't give her anything to do except one flirty line, it feels like.
It's a weird thing they've done with her too, because it's almost like they try to She's All That her, but in reverse, where they're like, put some glasses on her, like make her, and like she's clearly this beautiful woman, but they're like, no, make her nerdy, and in a way that I don't think that they would have ever gotten away with Lois Maxwell. Lois Maxwell would be like, no, sorry.
I missed her so much.
I'm not
She
doing
should
that.
be there.
Would it be weird for you, Michael, if Lois Maxwell had continued on as Miss Moneypenny? I mean, I truly do. I love Lois Maxwell, but I truly think it would be a little odd.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be very peculiar, wouldn't it?
Because
If they had that sort of same relationship, at least, anyway, you know, it would have to change, wouldn't it, otherwise?
Let her be a cougar and flirt. Let her do it. I believe in her. No, put her like actually in charge of something. Give her more to do.
Also, remember when I said Moonraker was the final dubbing of an actress by Nikki van der Zyl in the Bond series? It turns out I was wrong. Our lip sync all-star actually dubbed Belle Avery in the opening sequence of this movie. It's a very small moment, but
I caught it though. I was like, she is like sashaying away right now.
And that is, in fact, Nikki van der Zyl's last
for her.
uncredited appearance in James Bond.
Good for her.
Should have gotten some credit.
She's an all-star.
The script was written once again by Michael G. Wilson and Richard Maibaum, with the original concept being a prequel to the series before that was scrapped and replaced with the plot of this film. This is also the first film acknowledgement of Barbara Broccoli listed as an associate producer, which is a well-deserved promotion. And obviously she's only going to get more powerful as the series goes on. But it's interesting to note that this is her first, like, fully as producer. But like I said, she's already giving advice. She was in the talks for the casting of Dalton. She was in the talks for casting of Marion Dabo. So She's already high up. I think this is actually a really important
Mhm.
part to touch on, especially since we are a queer-themed podcast. The Chicago Tribune reported that efforts were being made due to the ongoing AIDS crisis to make sure Bond was only seen betting one woman in the film. Mark Locher, a Screen Actors Guild spokesperson close to the project, said, quote, "There was a conscious effort to portray the new Bond as not someone who sleeps with every woman he meets, and as one who values monogamy. There was a feeling the public wouldn't stand for it otherwise." This sentiment was later more or less confirmed by the Broccoli's themselves.
People were thinking about becoming more monogamous. There was a whole idea of safe sex. So people commented about, is Bond going to become a one-woman man?
Is it more than coincidental that Bond is no longer bed hopping considering the AIDS epidemic?
No, it's not. If you think back on all the films, even though they've often been publicized by lots of glamorous, gorgeous ladies, he always has one involvement. I think what's different and special about ours is that involvement is better developed. It's much more real and human, much more modern. And I think Mariam, who you just saw, does a terrific job.
This is a fascinating time to think about this. This movie comes out in 1987, which means it's in production in the previous 2 years, especially with the way that James Bond works and how early they start productions on their next film. So while they're thinking about getting a new Bond, and while they're thinking about like what's the plot going to be, they're also thinking about being conscious of the fact that there is a very real, a very scary health crisis going on. And I just want to give you some quick facts from the Foundation for AIDS Research about what was actually happening in 1987, because I think it'd be remiss if we didn't mention that until around 86, 87, it's still considered very much a gay plague. And there are many gay men who are marching upon Washington and spreading the ashes of their loved ones who have died alone in the hospital on Ronald Reagan's White House grounds. So in 1987 itself, the CDC finally launched a new nationwide public information campaign called America Responds to AIDS. It's the same year AZT was first approved by the FDA as the very first HIV prevention drug. However, it is also the most expensive drug in the history. It's cost $10,000 for a 1-year supply. The book And the Band Played On, which is a history of the AIDS epidemic starting only a few years earlier, is published in 1987. Liberace dies of AIDS in 1987, and that's just 2 years after Rock Hudson died of AIDS. So it's very much in the consciousness of what's happening in the real world. And I think it's very smart. We've talked about the way that Bond deals with the real world in the fact that it gets away with a lot of things other series wouldn't. I think it's actually very smart of them to try and comment on it without saying too much. I think a lesser series, because Bond are such fantastical action movies, could have ignored this. And they didn't. And they did respond to that. And smart, it's early in comparison to a lot of other media that is doing similar things. And it's very responsible. It's a little silly to say Bond's pushing monogamy, because that's not actually happening.
That's the only part of this I bristle at, because I'm very glad they were mindful of the epidemic at the time. But also monogamy just screams Ronald Reagan morality and all of his bullshit. Like, everyone go piss on his grave, continue doing that. Yeah, very good to know. I like learning all about this.
And the girl on the boat, he just had a drink with her and went
Right,
on.
exactly. And what's he going to do for that extra hour? Gossip? We know that's the thing. But I think it is actually like an interesting, especially timely message. Also, the next film is 2 years later, and has 2 love interests in that movie, so it doesn't stick around.
Scandalous.
But I think it is an interesting side note in history that it was it did not go unnoticed by the Broccoli's and their ilk. The film was mostly shot on the 007 stages at Pinewood Studios in England, as well as in Austria, Morocco, and the Rock of Gibraltar, and the Mojave Desert in the U.S., which was what they were using to double for Afghanistan. Aston Martin also finally returned to the series as the official car sponsor, having last been seen in the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service. The film featured a borrowed Aston Martin Vantage V8 and then 3 others that Peter Lamont realized they would have to buy because they needed to basically destroy them. 1 to destroy, 2 to trick out, and then the one that they borrowed to use. These were brand new, like they had
Oh
to
my
go
gosh.
to the Aston Martin facility and like be like, we need 3 more of these. Please provide.
Remember when they had to take footage of goldfish and blow them up because they had no money
No
for
money,
these
exactly.
films, and now they are just buying these like crazy cars just to destroy them?
But on the reverse side of that, this movie also only cost $40 million.
I
So
mean, good for them. Conservative for them at this point.
yeah, absolutely. R.I.P. to Roger Moore's Lotus Esprit. So
I will say, I thought that the Aston Martin would have way more like influence in this era, and then I'm like, it's just not been there for a while. I thought this was a big deal, and
yeah,
I guess it'll be a big deal again.
Roger Moore never had an Aston Martin in his
Yeah,
movies.
that's
I
wild
mean,
to me.
he never orders his own drink in any of the movies. Like it's one of those things that like people don't realize that it doesn't like he gets almost every time he does James Bond, he does get a couple out, but almost every time he gets interrupted. Like these were hallmarks of the Moore era, and they're kind of bringing it back for Dalton. The film also contains a disclaimer because the Red Cross was angered over the depiction of the film's villains using their logo in association with drug packets and arms smuggling. The British Red Cross even tried to take the film to court over it. But, I mean, it's such a generic logo. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm glad that they were like, hey, fuck you.
I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings on the Red Cross because they do some good stuff, but also like careful when you donate to them.
Yes, I think that's correct. In terms of the score, this was sadly John Barry's final time composing for the series. It was also the first foray into electronic music being mixed into and overlaid with the orchestrations in the score. Barry worked with the band Aha on the theme and co-wrote the track with guitarist vocalist Paul Wakhtar. The working relationship was not great. And in 2008, Wakhtar suggested online that Barry shouldn't be credited as a co-writer on the song for what he contributed to the writing process. Barry was also miffed that the band chose to release a different mix of the song on their album Stay on These Roads. Wakhtar had previously stated that he did appreciate Barry's contribution to the song, however.
I love the stuff he added to the track. I mean, he gave it like this sort of really cool string arrangement. That's when it, for me, it started to sound like a Bond thing, you know. So
it was a kind of a relationship that started off really on a really good foot, and I think towards the end, he felt that we were pig-headed about our ideas.
It's a personality thing. If the personality thing works, you can have the best of times. If you can't, you're dead, you know.
I remember specifically one little kind of synth hook line that we were particularly happy about, and he went away and wrote the string arrangement, and that particular line had been kind of one of the notes were changed a semi-note. But then we were back in the studio and we mixed it and changed it back to the original semi-note, and that was something he wasn't used to, I think, you know.
Right.
It was great. We were working with John Barry, he just wasn't working with us.
Anybody who calls themselves Aha, get a problem right there, right?
The girls are fighting.
Yeah, the girls are very much fighting. Michael, have you ever experienced anything like this? I know you're not John Barry, but few of us are. But have you ever, because I've actually experienced this in my career as an editor, where you've edited something, it's gone to another post process. In this case, for me, it was color. And this is not anything I've worked on recently. This was years ago. And the colorist went and changed some of my edits. And I was pissed. Has anything like this ever happened to you?
Nothing drastic that's particularly annoyed me. I've always tried to say, look, if anything comes about late in the day after I've delivered, if possible, I can change it myself and make it work. But I actually believe that the director's the boss, and if he feels like that it's something isn't quite working, then that's it. That's his decision. and I'm happy with that to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I don't chunter to myself about it, but it's I don't let it get me down.
And I don't disagree with that. This situation was the director didn't even notice, and then I had to be like, hey, like this edit's different, and then we had to go back to the colorist, and luckily it was a rogue colorist.
But that's a different matter, isn't it? No, I've never had one of those.
I've never had that, but I've had work that other people have worked on, and to the point where they changed enough of it, I'm like, please take my name off this. I actually don't want to be associated with this.
That I've also had happen, but that was like in college. That was so.
I'll tell you about mine later.
Oh, excellent. The and how do you feel that the electronic incorporation works in this film, Michael?
Well, actually, I mean, don't forget there was Mini Moog in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
This is very true, and I don't mean to downplay that, because the Mini Moog is like brilliant and On Her Majesty. That's what makes that theme stand out so much. But this is like, because it's sort of all over the film, feels like a very different beast.
I mean, I think this is probably, it's a toss up for me whether this or On Her Majesty's Secret Service is my favorite of Barry's scores, and I think it's a bit dated now, but I think it works perfectly for the film. The tick, 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 and all that stuff is a bit, it's dated, isn't it? But I think it works if you look at it in the context of the time, and it's still a great score, and it adds a lot to it.
Yeah, I think it really works in the time and place, and I don't ever feel like it distracts from what's like it works for me, and I think it's also smart to try something new when you have a new Bond as well too. And once again, that's kind of what as you mentioned, what happened in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They had a new Bond. He was like, I'm going to try a new sound, and I like it. I think it works. I also really like the theme. So as much as they all have issues with each other,
should have some respect.
I will say my dogs barked at the score because there's like some louder, scarier moments. So that means they did a good job, because my dogs love to bark whenever something is loud and scary.
That's good to know. They have taste.
Yeah. The one thing I've always wondered about this, and I've never really sort of, despite all the research I've done, I've never quite got to the bottom of it, because obviously a-ha are claiming one thing, that that they basically wrote that tune, but it also appears quite a lot in the score, doesn't it? And as far as I know, Barry gets complete credit for those uses,
right?
I've never quite understood exactly what's going on.
From what I understand, and once again, it's very he said. So and no one took anybody to court over it or anything, so there was never that much bad blood. But from what a-ha claims, they submitted a demo, and all Barry did was add the orchestrations to it, and that seems to be. But once again, like you said, it would be weird to me if he hadn't already written at least a partial score for the movie before working on the theme song.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
We'll never fully know.
We'll never fully know. But we can take sides.
Yeah, no, I've just thought I'll check on PRS and see if on some of those cues where it is the theme is used. I think let's see if we can work out if a-ha get a writer's credit on that as well. It'd be interesting. But go on, do you carry on whilst I do that?
Okay. The film also has a secondary theme, which is kind of a rarity in James Bond. If There Was a Man, which is played over the end credits, is performed by the Pretenders.
If there was a man I could dream of, I'd dream about a dream come true.
song also acts as the love theme in the film, having been incorporated into the score. The Pretenders also have another song in the film, Where Has Everybody Gone?, heard on Necros's Walkman. The song is then folded into the score whenever Necros shows up, working as his leitmotif. The Pretenders were also considered for the main theme, but the producers thought they could recapture the success of the Duran Duran song with a-ha, because they were a hot boy band at the time. So not a boy band, but you know what I mean. They were all boys. Also, in terms of a-ha, Morton Harkett, a-ha's lead singer, was also offered a role as a henchman, but he felt the producers were just using him due to the band's popularity and not because of his acting talent, which I'm of two minds of, because, like, what were you doing, Morton Harkett? Like, what big roles had you done before? But also, like, yes, of course, that's what the producers were like. You know,
Cameos are fun. It's
Yeah.
for us, the viewer. Ugh.
Morton Harkett, unfortunately, was just diagnosed with Parkinson's last year, and he's been of like really good mind of it. He did some interview where he said, my father's advice when he was alive was always just use it till it stops working. And so he's soldiering on. But yeah, so hopefully, you know,
That's so sad.
yeah, I know. Good rest of your life to Morton Harkett.
I will say I like the secondary theme a lot.
Yeah, no, it works really well as there's the love theme as well, doesn't it? It's excellent. I've looked on PRS for music, and John Barry gets a sole writer's credit on the Hercules Takes Off cue and Assassin and Drug, which both use the a-ha tune. So
Interesting.
It's interesting, boring copyright thing, but yeah.
I mean, paperwork is important.
Yeah.
It really is. It is sad to see Barry go, because I do think Barry is very much, I mean, his music is so much of what we think of when we think of James Bond. And even though, once again, he did not write the original James Bond theme, his orchestration of it is really what we think of. And he did not go out on bad terms with anybody. On his final, basically as a goodbye, when the movie came out, he took a full page ad out to tell Cubby Broccoli, congratulations.
I think I wrote them as long as I could find something slightly new to do. You had to keep within the bounds, and I think I exhausted the bounds. And that's when I thought I better cut out of the situation.
In 1987, Variety did a special issue commemorating 25 years of James Bond, and John Barry took out a full-page ad to congratulate his old pal Cubby Broccoli and to say thank you for the opportunity that it had presented. And it was kind of a nice way to go out.
Yeah, he always would be the man who created the sound of Bond.
He went on to have a great Hollywood film composing career after this, but it is, I understand it. You know, it's sort of like the thing that we had when Ken Adam left, where like you look around and you see suddenly you're the old guy amongst all the young people. It's got to weigh on you a little bit. But yeah, John Barry's contribution to James Bond is incalculable, and it was good to have him for when we did and when he wasn't evading taxes in England.
Indeed, I agree.
Where's my glass? My martini.
Yeah, mine's empty now, so I'll just. Yeah.
I got Gator Light. Don't worry.
Yeah, I just had Dr. Pepper. So
delicious.
I'm one of the few people who like Eric Serra's score for GoldenEye, and I also really love the music that David Arnold did on his films. And I actually, you know, I can't see a sort of a 90s John Barry, you know, doing that kind of music. And, you know, I'd like, you know, like a lot of it becomes quite, I mean, it's still great music, but it's just the style of music that he was composing in the 90s, like, you know, your Dances with Wolves and Chaplin and all of that, you know, it just doesn't feel to me, not that he couldn't do it, of course, but, you know, it just, I don't know.
It's okay to move on, I think.
Yeah.
If the films are moving on, and moving with culture, I think it's okay to try out other people, because sometimes it works out. And then he gets to go be creative and do other fun things.
But I do absolutely agree with you, Michael, that I do wonder that, like, and we've had some, I don't want to say bad scores in the past, but we've had some Bill Contis in the past. And like, I'm scared that if he moved into the 90s, yeah, we would have gotten more Conti than Arnold out of him. And I love David. For me, as much as I'm singing John Barry's praises because the Pierce Brosnan movies were so in vogue when I was a kid, like Arnold is my James Bond score. And then I got actually mad when they stopped using David Arnold. So I agree with you. I think it's an interesting hypothetical, but I don't know how great it would be.
Yeah.
Now I'm almost scared of what's going to happen in the 2000s because Gavin, I feel like you've been avoiding telling me anything about creative people that I might recognize because I am a very judgy person.
Yeah, I don't dislike, but there's choices to quote Tatiana, choices. The movie premiered in London on June 29th, 1987, with both the Prince and Princess of Wales in attendance. They actually got to go to the film set. I found some vintage news sets, and there's like a famous moment from this because they give Diana a sugar glass bottle and she breaks it over Charles's head.
So the princess was invited to choose her target. The couple were offered a complete set of the bottles to take home with them.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, shades of what's to come.
She would have been a great Bond girl.
Yeah. An exploding milk bottle would have been better.
The exploding milk bottle would have. The film went on to gross $51.2 million in the United States and Canada, and ending its run with what would be the equivalent of $191.2 million nowadays worldwide on a budget of only $40 million, as previously mentioned. So, like you said, almost conservative for that point, Chels. The reviews at the time were pretty good, with Janet Maslin of the New York Times basically only criticizing the runtime, and Siskel and Ebert both giving the film 2 out of 4 stars. Ebert said he missed the humor, and Siskel said that Dalton wasn't, quote, manly enough for the role.
Here's the thing. I love to go back and watch old Siskel and Ebert, and here's the thing. Siskel, what a bitch.
Yeah.
Love to pick on people, and I am like, sir, can you look in a mirror?
That skinny old bald twink.
Right?
Like, what the fuck?
Also,
Dalton's not
Ebert,
manly
I
enough?
have seen your scripts, the ones you wrote. Do not talk to me about humor, sir. Rest in peace.
Modern reviews tend to skew even more positive, finding the film works as a balance of the Moore and Connery years. However, most are quick to point out that when it comes to the portrayal of the Mujahideen in the film, that the knowledge and the taste are severely lacking in what was a time of very nuanced global politics. Hard agree. When the Mujahideen show up, it's like, what are we doing, guys? I know it's 87, but
I do not expect these movies to have good politics ever, like even a couple of years ago, whenever that last Craig came out. But man, this was just like, oh boy, what are we doing here?
it comes from the fact that, like, the Cold War, Russia was always the villain, and this is a very unique time for the Cold War. And so I'm sure the writers were just like, who are the people that are fighting the Russians right now? Stuff's going on in Afghanistan, but it is not nuanced and it is not tasteful in the way it's handled.
I mean, there is some basis in reality, though, isn't there? As
Yeah.
like the Mujahideen, were trained and armed by the CIA.
Right. Right, exactly.
So, that thing about my enemy's enemy, is, and all that sort of stuff.
And I will say Bond does treat them that way because he says some off-color things about how they're going to treat Miriam Dabo. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we didn't need it. We didn't. But you're right. It is very like, not to like Law and Order this series, but a very ripped from the headlines sort of thing to do for the time. But I guess that sort of wraps up the production. why don't we take the file for The Living Daylights off the shelf, open it up, and find out a little bit about the plot of the movie. We start with the final Barry orchestration of the Monty Norman Bond theme as Timothy Dalton walks across the screen for his first gun barrel sequence. We then widen out to reveal a heavily guarded beach on the coast of the Rock of Gibraltar. In M's office aboard a cargo plane, M debriefs 3 00s on their mission, a test to see if they can penetrate the radar stations at Gibraltar. The back of the plane opens, the agents descend, and M quickly runs to collect the papers now flying off of his desk. This is cool, but not as cool as I feel bad because I know you were previously on The Man with the Golden Gun. I actually think I'm going to evoke The Man with the Golden Gun a couple times in this because there is some cool shit in The Man with the Golden Gun, and the M's office on the like broken boat that's all tilted is so much cooler than the like M's office in the interior of a plane.
True.
I think it's like a missed opportunity because I read how Peter Lamont really wanted them to widen out from the window to the office, so be like a misdirect. They play their hand too soon. They show you right away that it's just the office on the plane. It doesn't work for me.
I like it, and this is actually my favorite of all the Bond opening sequences. I think.
The rest of the sequence is great.
Yeah, but I like it. I've always liked it.
Trust me, I'm not saying anything too negative over it. I just wish
but I agree. The boat is, I think the wonky boat is cool.
2 of the 3 agents land safely, while a third, looking remarkably like Roger Moore, gets caught in a tree. And that made me giggle so much. Freeing himself, he is immediately tagged with paintballs, having failed the mission. The next agent, a passing ringer for George Lazenby, and boy was he, I had to double take, grapples up the side of a mountain only to be caught by a man not part of the mission who cuts the 00 free, and his stunt dummy falls to his doom. Cut to a dolly into our new Bond, Timothy Dalton, witnessing the death of his compatriot.
I love that close-up of Dalton. What a good just looking fucking fine as hell. Like wind blowing in his hair, piercing eyes. Like Dalton just looks like the man in that. And you're right, Michael. I like this setup for an opening sequence because we rarely get to see Bond do these sort of training. In fact, the last time we saw Bond do one of these training,
never say never again.
Exactly. Exactly. And that pales in comparison to how cool this is.
I call that Rambo.
Yeah.
That's all it was just Rambo James Bond.
I think they did it as kind of a, we can do this too. And hey, look how good we do it. So
yeah. It's kind of clever, isn't it? How it's sort of ambiguous about who Bond is, and yeah.
The only thing that would have made it work harder is if we didn't have the gun barrel sequence. But the gun barrel sequence is so intrinsic to the series, even though we're good. Well, when the Craig era happens, you're going to see them play around with it a bit, Chels. But for here, I feel like they thought that they had to absolutely do it or else.
Yeah, I get it.
Bond finds the cut rope and the body of one of the men running the training exercise, and after being scared by some sort of primate, I'm not a zoologist, witnesses the assassins steal a vehicle. As John Barry's score switches to a more electronic-driven theme, Bond is hit by paintballs, but he continues barreling through and jumps on the stolen Jeep. Bond hangs on for dear life as the car takes fire in more ways than one. He then cuts through the roof, grabbing the driver by the neck and causing all sorts of property damage as they make their way through the touristy parts of Gibraltar. Bond is then able to direct the Jeep off the cliff into the sea and parachute out before the Jeep explodes. Bond then drops onto the roof of the yacht of a rich woman complaining how bored she is. He steals her phone, introduces himself as Bond, James Bond, and then calls in to explain himself as the woman presents him with a glass of champagne. Bond reports he's going to need an extra hour.
Exercise Control 007 here. I'll report in an hour.
Won't you join me?
Better make that 2.
Sure.
Ready, just have a chat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They played cards the whole time.
Sure,
He's
Dan.
like, oh, so you're bored, are you? Like, you ever play Rummy? Yeah, I do really like this opening sequence, and I think it shows you a lot of who Dalton is. And once again, Dalton is doing a lot of the close-ups himself in terms of stunts. And I'm not making fun of Roger Moore because Roger Moore was doing his own stunts all the way up into The Spy Who Loved Me. But it
Never
has
hung
been
off the top of a car, though, did he? I don't think.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that is Dalton himself hanging off the top of the car. So
Of a Jeep.
Very good at action, Timothy, and he was a good mover, and he was very keen to do as much of his own stunt work as possible.
When I felt that I could do and should do the action that we see in the film, I did it.
He was up on top of that Jeep. He was on the side of it. He climbed down. He did a lot of things himself.
I knew that he was strong enough. It's whether he had the courage to hang on the top of that. And it was 1,300 feet drop down the side of the mountain.
We got him on top of the Jeep, and I said, all we want, Tim, are just some nice big close-ups of him. Oh, but I can do it. I can swing around, you know. I said, Tim, we just want some close-ups of him. We don't. And he was so keen, and he was throwing himself around. He was throwing himself off the side of the truck, and my old heart was going like this.
The producers weren't too happy, but they accepted our judgment, and he did it safely, and he did it spectacularly. And he went down the side of that hill, hanging on the top of the Jeep.
I also love that his hair is just not like pounded with gel or anything, that it's just fluffy and free. Oh, he has great hair.
Well, you say that, wait till you see it in in License to Kill.
yeah, it's
Is it insane?
there's a choice made. It's not the right choice.
Choices. A gloved hand fires a gun at the opening of Maurice Bender's latest opening, which contains nude gymnastics, sunglasses, sun hats, painted breasts, a woman in a champagne flute, and pool reflections.
All my favorite things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The last bit of the woman in the champagne flute is so awkward because they just hold it forever. And it's just like, that poor model, what is going through her head? I guess I just have to lay my head down and yeah.
They should have just done what Bosco in Drag Race does, just like sit in a martini glass. Like that's the entire Christmas tour show is Bosco just being hot in a martini glass.
But I will say, and I feel like you're maybe not as hot on this theme. I do really like Chels specifically. I don't know how you feel, Michael, about this. I like Aha's The Living Daylights. I think
Yeah, I love it, yeah.
it's so much fun, and I think it works mixed into the score as well too. I think it provides, like, it's very action oriented, and I know we got Duran Duran's like Dance into the Fire, View to a Kill last time, but for some reason there's something even more refreshing about Aha's take.
I think it's an actual Bond song, and so that's why I give it more credit, because like the other movie, I think it was a good song. It was just not a Bond song. It was an afterthought. It's like, oh, let's just add the title in here randomly. This one, I think I just like the orchestration more than the actual lyrics. I think the lyrics are kind of dumb, but I do not expect these to be like great songs like that. I'm like, I want the cheese. I want it to be a little on the nose. I'm fine with that.
I also think when you think about like Aha and you think about Take On Me, which is of course their big hit, they're sort
Yeah.
of in the US, they're kind of one hit wonders. They didn't really get
Yeah.
another big hit. But I think this song is Morton Harkett, the lead singer, at his most David Bowie. He's doing the like, hold tight, hold on tight now.
Yeah.
Like
But the
that sort of-
range, you know,
Yeah.
his range is incredible. Isn't
His
it?
range is insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that he can do that all the
Mhm.
way from, in fact, I was listening to them on Song Exploder talk about Take On Me, and he was like, I sort of regret the high note on Take On Me now because everybody expects me to do it in concert still. And it's like, well, I don't know about that.
It's like, no, that's vocal rest, baby.
Yeah, exactly. We're now in Bratislava, Czechoslovakia, as Mozart's Symphony No. 4 plays at a concert hall. Bond joins a man sitting in a private box who introduces himself as Saunders from Section V, Vienna, and complains about Bond's lateness. Bond uses his cigarette case, which is hiding a pair of binoculars, to spy on KGB General Georgy Koskov from his box, when his eye catches a beautiful young blonde playing the cello in the orchestra. Bond and Saunders leave and head across the street to an abandoned storefront, where upstairs in an apartment, Bond readies a sniper rifle, where Saunders informs him that Koskov's future defection from the KGB is his case. And Koskov specifically asks for Bond's protection as he escapes, because Bond is the best. Bond gets into position as Saunders focuses some night vision goggles. I just want to all this is fine. Why does Bond have binoculars hidden in a cigarette case? One of the most appropriate places to have binoculars or opera glasses is the orchestra.
Why not?
I didn't realize that it was a sort of covert gadget. Like I just assumed they were binoculars.
Right. There's nothing out of place. And I go to the opera all the time. I have opera glasses. Like you just.
I will say, this whole time, Saunders is just really on Bond's case and kind of bitchy and just like won't give him all the information, is kind of a dick, and I love it.
Yeah,
It's so much fun.
pencil pushing blotter jotter, isn't he?
Exactly. He wants all the credit.
This is my case.
I tell you what, though, I know we're going to be talking a lot about clothes and things, but I think the conversion of his tuxedo into the into the all black thing is one of the cool.
It's
coolest
so
things.
cool. It's
Great
so, like,
reveal.
yeah, absolutely.
Back at the symphony, Koskov tries to escape through a bathroom window as Bond spots the sniper aiming for him. It's the girl with the cello. However, Bond fires and hits her gun, refusing to kill her. Koskov makes it to the storefront as Saunders leads him back to the car. The girl leaves the symphony, holding her arm in pain. A little disguised, too. Very smart. Koskov hugs Bond as Bond loads him into the passenger seat. Bond drives Koskov to the Trans-Siberian oil pipeline, saying he has a pipeline to the west. Sorry, this was so goofy. I loved it.
I was going to say, it's a good line.
There they meet Rosika Miklos, our queer-coded queen who Bond refers to as our man here. Rosika sneaks them into the pipeline and places Koskov into a personally designed coffin that will allow him to travel the pipe. Before they can send him out, Bond calmly explains Koskov is the first to try it out. I was dying. This was so funny.
It's
and
good.
Also, Rosika, what a woman.
What
Love
a
her.
woman. She's great too. And you know what? She gives it up in the next little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Rosika leaves to take care of the supervisor by seducing him and leaves Bond to pull the switch when the pressure reaches 100. Bond succeeds and sneaks away as Rosika immediately ends her ruse, proclaiming, "What kind of girl do you think I am?" At the border, Saunders and just about everyone hears the coffin pass through the pipe, and Q, along with several of our Q Division compatriots, helps Koskov out of the tube and welcome him to Austria before he is whisked away in a jet. Saunders then meets Bond as they cross the border to safety as they watch the jet fly away. Saunders tells Bond he's going to turn him into M for not killing the girl, and Bond tells him to go ahead. He only kills professionals, and the girl clearly wasn't, because whoever she was, he must have scared the living daylights out of her. And then we all pointed at the screen.
I will say, Rosika, if they were making like her character today instead of what kind of girl do you think I am, I feel like she would shout something like, "You're not my type."
Yeah, exactly. Just make it a little more explicit. I mean, they really do. Like, she is very, like, the fact that he introduces her as our man here, like, it's a very queer-coded take of what's happening.
At one of the Universal Export annexes, Q is going through some files looking for who the girl is among KGB female assassins as our new Moneypenny gets her flirt on with our new Bond. You know, they just don't have the sauce.
They don't.
Sorry.
No.
But they gave her nothing to do. Like,
Yeah.
that is not her fault.
Assassination methods, strangulation with hands or thighs.
Well, James, she's just your type.
Wrong again, Moneypenny. You are.
Natasha
I'll
Zak.
file that with the other secret information around here.
With nothing in the database, they all gather around to watch the Q Division's latest toy, a rocket launcher in a boom box.
That's the ghetto blaster.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
It's
And
like,
Q makes an off-color joke about its name.
it's like, come on, Q.
Like,
But it is a neat
okay.
toy, I will say.
They were actually going to put those at the Toys R Us's, but much
Yeah.
like Batman Returns and McDonald's, it just didn't work out.
Just didn't seem like it was a good idea
No.
for some reason.
Moneypenny informs Bond and wants him to pick up a parcel at Harrods, and Bond asks her to help him hunt down the blonde cellist before more flirting, a bum pat. That would get any other man fired, sure. Again,
Now,
they
at
don't
least.
have the
Yeah.
chemistry. Like,
I know she's into it, but it's like,
it should have been my girl.
On a farm, a jogger strangles a milkman with his Walkman and steals his disguise just as Bond arrives at a large estate. In the drawing room, Koskov runs over and kisses James and thanks him as Bond delivers him food from Harrods. The jogger/milkman is let into the estate and told to deliver the milk to the back as Koskov tells M, Bond, and the Minister of Defense that General Leonid Pushkin, General Gogol's replacement, is the reason for his defection. Pushkin is laying a plan to eliminate every other country's spies. The jogger then kills a cook and another agent in the kitchen, featuring a cameo of the macaw from For Your Eyes Only. He then uses exploding milk bottles to cover his escape and kidnap Koskov, knocking him unconscious before getting him into a helicopter. That is, in fact, the macaw from For Your Eyes Only, because John Glenn was like, let's put the macaw in again. So,
I mean, great performer.
Consistent.
Nails it every time, doesn't he?
I will say, that is a very funny sentence. Strangles a milkman with his Walkman.
It's what he does. The Walkman cord got to be a little reinforced. I've broken many of headphone cord just by pulling on them.
Exactly. So. Like mine almost just broke on this recording. Back in England, M and the Minister of Defense lament the situation, and M delivers the message that Bond is to kill Pushkin. But Bond doesn't believe Pushkin is the psychopath responsible. He also brings up that they need to investigate the sniper, and M chastises Bond by saying they can get 008 instead. The negging works, and Bond accepts the mission. Down in the Q division, Q shows Bond the new keyring fob that shoot stun gas when you whistle, rule Britannia. Really, who came up with this idea? This is so stupid.
This is a Richard Maybaum all the way. Like, it's got to be at this point. I know Richard Maybaum started out hating the like reliance on gadgets, but I think at this point in his old age, he was
cocaine was flowing at this point because
I don't know if Richard Maybaum, he's like in his 70s at this point, probably.
Yeah, probably more Quaaludes.
It's risky as well, isn't it? You know, he needs to pick a more obscure tune.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there is a danger that someone might randomly whistle "Rule Britannia," and it goes off in your pocket.
This is just so silly. Q then explains that a wolf whistle will cause it to explode, but stops Bond
Even
from
more dangerous.
Exactly.
Even more dangerous this time.
Particularly in that era,
But
walking past the building site.
Genuinely, like, I could accidentally kill Roger Moore's Bond with this. But I do love that he stops Bond from doing it so he doesn't die. Okay. He also receives a fancy master key that unlocks 90% of the world's locks and shows off a couch that eats an agent.
That's truly what that couch does.
Doesn't this prove the point that when people talk about how dull and unfunny The Living Daylights is?
I have genuine tears reading this. Moneypenny finds the cellist through her research. Her name is Kara Milovi, and she's classically trained. Bond tells Moneypenny to book him a trip to Tangier through Bratislava and to keep it private. They flirt again, and Bond takes the Aston Martin, much to Q's dismay. Yeah, he knows that's not coming back.
Why even show him the car then?
Don't show him the car.
Don't show him the
You
car.
go put that in storage.
Exactly. Offer him a different showcase showdown. Back at the concert hall, Bond watches Kara and follows her home on the cable car. However, seeing that the police are after her, Bond watches as they take her away and straight to awaiting General Pushkin. Bond takes the car to its final stop and rescues Kara's cello, taking the case into the bathroom stall and retrieving the sniper rifle from it, only to find her bullets were blanks. He then finds her address inside and makes his way back to her apartment, telling her he dropped her sniper rifle into the river. She asks him who he is, but he tells her to never mind that and that she's being followed. Bond now believes that Koskov's defection itself was a ruse and that she is Koskov's girlfriend, and he will reunite them as soon as possible in Vienna, convincing her to come with him and setting up a decoy of her in a phone booth as they escape. Love the phone booth decoy. What a good little moment this movie has.
Younger listeners, a phone booth is a thing you had because we didn't have like proper cell phones back then. You had to take these things called coins and put it in there, and you could make a call.
This would never work nowadays, you're right.
And if you need the phone number of a prostitute,
there you go.
Yeah.
On their way out, she convinces him to stop at the conservatory to retrieve her cello. This did make me laugh because he's like, no, 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 and
Yeah.
no. And eventually, I just love that cutaway. And it's like him trying to shove it in the back of a vehicle and struggling. What a great scene.
Yes, absolutely. And I like the chemistry of him like it starts them off on the right foot when he's like, no, like we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, and he really sort of uses his Shakespearean training to deliver the "Why didn't you learn the violin?" line.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Get up. Why didn't you learn the violin?
And they later listen to the police band in the car, only to immediately be spotted because they're not good spies. However, he uses a laser hidden in his Aston Martin to slice through the police car chasing them. Again, these movies are silly. Do not tell me that this isn't a comedy.
I love yeah, it's so good. I have no idea how it
Salt
didn't.
corrosion.
Yeah, exactly. Salt corrosion, exactly. I don't know how it did not slice through those police's legs, but
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, it's the Moonraker lasers.
Yes, exactly.
He also uses some missiles to blow through a police barricade and during some defensive driving forces them off-road onto a frozen lake, taking an entire shed with them. He then frees the car, blows a tire, and uses the exposed wheel to cut a hole in the ice. Sure. Trapping some police, and then extends skis from the car and a jet to launch them over a border stop and then crash.
Yes, I love that it does crash.
You had to get to that portion of it. You just had to go through all this destruction. He then sets the car to self-destruct as Kara and Bond escape down the mountain using her cello case as a sled and steering with the cello itself. They make it over the border, sliding through the Austrian checkpoint, waving their passports and saying the only thing they have to declare is the cello.
I love the cello escape down the mountain. It's so good.
It's so funny.
I mean, this only sounds stupid when it's written down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the actual film, it's
It is played so serious.
Yeah.
Whenever I read it, it seems like a Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah.
But as you're watching it, it is actually so dramatic.
Our guest David Lowbridge Ellis, who runs License to Queer, the website, said the same thing when we were doing our Diamonds Are Forever episode. He's like, it only sounds more perplexing when you write it out like this. But I'm here to say it's so awesome when it happens in the movie. I guess the behind the scenes were not as rosy. Olivia Dabo said, you know, I'll even take it back further. I guess what happened is John Glenn kind of looked at it and was like, this would be a fun thing to do. Michael G. Wilson was like, yeah, why don't we do that? Richard Maybaum, the other co-writer, was like, no, it'll never work. So they actually did some tests and found out you can, in fact. However, that's not the case for the movie because they need it to go right. So it is a specially made cello case that is wider than a normal cello case, so they can both fit on it. It has skis hidden on the bottom, and it also has a remote control. However, Dalton has to hold the cello, so Miriam Diabo has to steer the cello as they're going down, which is why her arm is hidden underneath him because she's actually steering it. On top of that, they didn't counterweight it. And Dalton weighs more than she does. So
You don't think?
Right, exactly. So half the time they're starting down the mountain and just spinning out of control as they're going down the mountain. She said she loved making the movie. And I want to stress that point. She had a great time making the movie. These 3 days shooting this were the worst.
Plus, they put firecrackers underneath the snow, so it looked like they were shooting at us. And I have a phobia of explosions.
They both were screaming with delight.
I hated doing those scenes.
So I think, like saying, the salt corrosion line, and I've had some optional extras installed. I think there's a nice touches to this this scene. All it's fun, isn't it? And quite exciting. Like I say, when you read it, like say out loud like this, it sounds completely preposterous, but in the film, it's all really good.
And I do think that, like, once again, this is we're like moving away from the Roger Moore, but I do still think these are lines Roger Moore could have carried off himself as well. But they
Yeah.
also work for Dalton, even though he is playing James Bond differently and doing a different thing. Like, he still has that charm that he's able to, like,
Mhm.
spread out.
This is like Roger Moore played serious.
Yeah. Yeah. In Tangier, Pushkin meets with American Brad Whitaker, an arms dealer who idolizes conquerors and army men, surrounded by wax figures of himself as conquerors and toys in his museum-like fortress. Pushkin tells him that their arms order is canceled and that he knows Whitaker has no actual army service in his record, and the KGB wants their money back.
This is also the plot of the White House right now. Back in Vienna, Bond and Kara take a horse-drawn carriage when she spills her backstory and that she hopes to play Carnegie Hall someday. Kaskov promised her that. He promised, so obviously it's going to happen for her. They check into a hotel and Bond asks to have martinis sent up, shaken, not stirred, as well as 2 tickets to the opera. He also buys Kara an expensive dress on Kaskov's tab. I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
As Kaskov frolics with a bunch of babes by the pool, he and his fake assassin make their way to Whitaker, who suggests that the runner, milkman, Speedo-wearing assassin should kill Pushkin. We also finally learn that the assassin's name is Necros? I never caught his name.
Oh yeah,
Not
And
once.
it's a good Bond name, Necros. Like,
It is. I just called him, ooh, that guy.
very weirdly Greek for a blonde man.
A very blonde man. Kaskov suggests they kill another agent instead to force Britain's hand and to make sure Bond is forced to assassinate Pushkin. I mean, not a bad idea.
That night at the opera, Kara is having the time of her life, and Saunders realizes that Kara is the cellist. Bond lets him in on Kafka's deception and that he's posing as Kafka's friend in an attempt to get closer to finding the truth, sending Saunders to follow some leads for him. Bond then takes Kara in their fancy outfits to an amusement park where they ride roller coasters, bumper cars, and the worker at the shooting gallery begs Bond to stop winning. They then head up the massive Ferris wheel, getting a car all to themselves as Saunders looks on. Bond attempts to seduce Kara in the Ferris wheel, and she gives in. They make their way back down, and just as Saunders fills Bond in on the information that connects Koskov to Brad Whitaker, Whitaker purchased the Stradivarius cello Koskov gave to Kara. Necros causes a pneumatic door to seemingly crush Saunders to death, leaving behind a balloon saying "death to spies" in Russian. So this is
That
how
was a
we're...
brutal death.
It was, well, trust me, it's only gonna get more brutal from here because
Oh, I
License to
bet.
Kill is the most brutal. But the yeah, I'm both shocked in the way I never remember this for some reason, even though it is very brutal. But I'm shocked in the way they pull it off, and then but also never show you Saunders. Really, they show you like a hand or
Mhm.
something, and it's so smart because whatever horrible thing just happened to him when that door crushed him is so much worse in your imagination than anything you
Mhm.
could see on screen.
Oh, yeah. I do love that whole basically rom-com montage.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the romance comes in and we see Dalton be very charming and flirty. And I'm like, ooh, they got good chemistry.
I also don't think you rarely get to see Bond spend that much time with one of his love interests. I mean, it really almost takes a card out of the On Her Majesty's Secret Service moment where he's, doing the kind of romping in the fields with Tracy and whatnot. But this, you have a whole carnival, so you can kind of set them up in various fun
Yeah, it is
situations.
like a dating situation. This is literally something out of whatever Meg Ryan would probably do. Bond spots more balloons and tries to chase them down, but only manages to pull a gun on a child. That's scary. Kara catches up, and Bond questions what she knows about Whitaker and Kaskov, but she's still in the dark, and he suggests they leave for Tangiers in the morning.
What's the matter?
Bad accident back there.
Did you hear?
Hear from Yorkie. Yes. I got the message.
And this is the scene that I was talking about where like you just see it
Yeah.
boiling underneath and just building. I do think it's a little naive of Bond to get the message, the death to spies, and instantly think, oh, I've been wrong. It is Pushkin again. It's not Koskov. But also, he's only getting the information presented to him. But I like Dalton's performance here, because he does have to
Mhm.
go from the lovey-dovey of them being on the Ferris wheel to the businessman of receiving the information from Saunders, and then to, oh fuck, I have to go kill some people now.
Mhm.
Bond follows Pushkin to a hotel where he uses binocular glasses to spot Pushkin with a lady. Later that night, as Pushkin arrives with flowers and a gift basket, he enters the room to find Bond holding his paramour hostage and pointing a silenced gun at his head. Pushkin says the war on spies is a ruse, a discontinued operation from Stalin's time. He also says Koskov disappeared weeks ago, right as he was about to be arrested, before using his secret alert watch to call the guards. Bond strips Pushkin's lady as a distraction and catches the guard, knocking him out. He returns the woman her clothes, tells her to lock herself in the bathroom, and prepares to execute Pushkin as Pushkin agrees that he must die to flush out Koskov. This, first of all, once again, we don't need a device for binoculars. He could easily take out binoculars in his car. We don't
Yep.
need glasses, binoculars. They're not hidden in any way. They don't.
I was gonna say, are they any more portable?
Right. They just look like binocular glasses. It's wild. This is Dalton at his most Connery, I want to say. The like, and it's funny that you were also here for the last time we got to talk about Bond roughing up a woman, since Roger Moore refused to do it afterwards.
Mhm.
He and I don't want to cast dispersions on Dalton. He does not rough her up in any way, but the way that he grabs her when he takes her clothes off her is so violent feeling.
Yeah, it's
that
pretty brutal.
it's brutal. And I was like, oh,
Especially after the whole rom-com montage
right.
we've seen him with.
But I think it creates these layers and shades for Dalton to play with, for him to be like, there is an assassin in here, and there is a very dark man who has a very dark core and will do what it takes to get the job done, whether it means stripping this poor lady. And how long has he been holding her hostage? Has he been there for hours? I don't think he has been, because she has like food and stuff waiting. But there's a lot of questions in this scene where I'm like, oh shit, Dalton means business.
I do think the casting here does work very well, because he is an actor that you're not sure if he's going to be bad or not.
Yeah, Jonathan Rhys-Davies, and he's so good. I mean, he's
He's
good
so
in anything.
good.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Later at a public speech, Necros spots Bond as he seemingly kills Pushkin. So cool. Bond escapes across rooftops of the Moroccan city as he's fired upon by the police. Necros watches Pushkin's body as it's wheeled away. However, Pushkin has faked his death. That little reveal was so funny. I was giggling. And again, this is not a giggly movie. Back in the streets, some sex workers pick up Bond and drive him away, only for them to reveal that they're CIA agents and transport him to a yacht where a brand new Felix Leiter is waiting on him. They fill each other in on what they each already know.
This Felix Leiter, not my favorite. I will say. This is John Terry, and he is our current 6th Felix Leiter of the series, 7th if you count Never Say Never Again. And yeah, he doesn't leave an impression on me.
What the hell are you trying to do, 007? Start World War III?
Felix Leiter. Now, what's the CIA doing here?
Nice work, girls.
No hard feelings?
Not if the party's still on.
I could not pick him out of a lineup. I am so sorry.
Nah.
Back at Whitaker's, Necros delivers the news that Bond killed Pushkin, just as Koskov receives a call that worries him. Back in a massive hotel room, Bond finds Kara practicing her cello. She shakes him up a martini, and he tells her the truth about Koskov being a bad guy, wanting her dead, and that he himself is a spy out to stop Koskov, before realizing she has drugged him. Before he passes out, he tells her that he's the one who saved her by not shooting her that night at the orchestra, just as Koskov and Necros arrive. I think it's just from watching so many of these movies, when she doesn't drink the martini, I was like, uh-oh. Dalton. She's got you.
I mean, just from watching soap operas this week, I was like, Bond is loaded into an ambulance next to a supposed transplant heart and under the assumed name Jersey Bond.
That makes me laugh. That's the part that makes me cackle every time. I love that they're like, he needs a Russian name. His name is Jerzy Bondov.
Yep, that is the most Russian name. Okay, the ambulance is loaded on a plane where he is handcuffed. When he wakes, Kara says she's been a fool and they discover the heart. Sorry, this should be sillier. In any other movie, this is goofy. Kara says she's been a fool, and they discover the heart Koskov is carrying is an animal heart surrounded by diamonds hidden in the ice around it. Bond asks her to help him retrieve his keyring. Bond asks Kaskov why he didn't kill him, and Kaskov says his plan is to turn Bond into the Russians for Pushkin's death. And Bond gives a call back to Roger Moore when he says, "We have an old saying, Kaskov, and you're full of it."
And when was the last time Roger Moore said that? Why, it's the man with the golden gun. See all this symmetry that's happening, Michael? You brought this all into our lives. Kara retrieves the keyring as the plane lands in Afghanistan, where Koskov turns James over to the Russian guards, along with Kara. Bond and Kara are taken to jail on the Russian Air Force base to wait for transport to Moscow, where she passes Bond the keyring, which he uses his whistle to stun 2 guards and knock out another. During the fight, an Afghan prisoner also helps Bond subdue his guards, and as thanks, Bond frees him, and the two mount their escape, only to be intercepted by the Mujahideen. Luckily for Bond, he freed that Afghani prisoner, as he tells the men that Bond and Kara are not Russian, and Bond makes an off-color joke about what they plan on doing to Kara.
I tell them you're not Russian. They'll not kill you now.
Not now, how about later?
Don't worry, I'll save you for the harem.
Bond, come on. This is not Never Say Never Again.
Yeah, that was nasty. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
The two are taken to a resistance camp where they realize their former fellow prisoner is a man named Cameron Shaw, who studied at Oxford. Bond explains his situation to Shaw, but Shaw says he can't help Bond until sunrise the next day. Bond reunites with Kara after a costume change, and he tells her he has to leave her to get her out of harm's way. She chews him out for his death wish, and after a couple of tears, they spend the night together.
It's really sweet.
I wonder what they did.
Yeah. They just talk about their hopes and dreams, you
Hopes
know.
and
like,
dreams.
yeah. He was like, I got these cool gadgets. Do you want to try any of them out? Like,
Can you whistle?
Okay. But not a wolf whistle, please. Yeah, this is really cute. She's really good in this scene. Michael and I had a very brief conversation before we started recording. Some people do not think Miriam Dabo's good in this movie. I'm here to say they are wrong. I think she's very good. I think this scene especially, I think it's really hard to like not just cry on camera, but to actually evoke the emotion that this man she's basically just met, that she's now in love with. It like, let me tell you, she does a lot better job than Léa Seydoux does in her first Bond movie in convincing me she's in love with this man. So like, I don't know. I think Miriam Dabo's beyond being gorgeous, really great in this film.
What's that supposed to mean?
Back end of horse.
You're calling me a horse's ass.
I might never see you again.
You will. I promise.
I also think that Art Malik, who plays Cameron Shaw, is also a great actor. You see him pop up still in like TV things. Certainly over here you do. And he's, a really great actor.
Yeah,
he's very handsome.
And yes, agreed on both fronts. And I think it's hard to command that sort of, especially when you're in a James Bond movie and you're talking to James Bond, but that scene where he's like, no, tomorrow, like you're at my mercy right now and you're gonna have to fucking deal with it, is so good. Yeah.
One of the criticisms I often see of Living Daylights is that the cinematography and things are a bit cheap, but there's this bit here, the sunset over in the desert.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the most beautiful shots in the whole Bond canon.
Oh, that's really shocking to find out, because I think especially, I mean, I hate shitting on Octopussy or making it sound like I'm shitting on Octopussy, but to me, Octopussy is the one that I think of as having sort of the word, like that's the movie that feel like you can tell it sets and whatnot. The desert stuff in this movie is great. And the fact that it's the Mojave Desert being passed off as Afghanistan too, I think it works. It works for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
Yeah.
buying into the fantasy.
The Jantasy.
The Jantasy. The next morning, Bond and crew ride out for their mission. However, Bond finds the Mujahideen are carrying opium, and Shah says he doesn't care if the Russians die from drugs or guns. And Bond realizes that Koskov is using the diamond drug deal to pay for his arms shipment from Whitaker. Bond convinces Shah to let him sabotage the deal with explosives and packs Nekros in Koskov's truck full of the drugs as he sets the bomb. However, the truck takes off, and realizing the Bond is trapped in the back, Kara steals a machine gun and rides after him. Shah and company follow suit. Bond finishes setting the explosive and blends in with the men unloading the drugs, just as Shah and Kara arrive at the base as well. Bond gets the bomb on the plane with the drugs, sets the timer, and then runs face first into Koskov and Nekros.
Whoopsie.
Do you think if he'd fixed the headdress over his face like he had been wearing for 90% of the scene, they would have realized it was him? Because it's one of those situations where it's like, come on, Bond. Be better at your job. You're better than this.
Bond seemingly has no escape until Shah's men ride onto the base, and Shah himself uses some construction equipment to cause a major distraction, which I really loved that.
Yeah, it's
Giving
cool.
Bond enough time to get the plane started, and as Shah finally gets his revenge on his jailer, Kara is able to steal a Jeep and getting James to open the cargo hold, drive the Jeep onto the back of the plane. That was kind of cool. Like all the distractions, and we all know Jeeps are so durable and can totally do that. However, Nekros is able to jump aboard too before the plane takes off, and Kaskov survives a plane collision coming from the opposite direction. Of course he does.
Yeah, if this was a different Bond film, Koskov would have died there. I truly believe that. But they need him for a later scene, I guess. The Jeep onto the plane is a very cool, very practical effect. And obviously you can't run a plane on a runway with the cargo hold down. So what they do is they lower it just enough so it's not scraping that. And then what she's driving onto is actually the flatbed of a truck. But because it's a close-up, you can't tell the difference. And it's a brilliant trick photography, and I love it.
I love tricks.
Yeah, all of film is tricks, baby, you know? Bond leaves Kara to pilot the plane. She's a cellist. And goes to defuse the bomb, but he's immediately attacked by Nekros. Kara hears the scuffle and decides to open the cargo hold, almost killing both Bond and Nekros as they fall from the plane, only hanging on to a cargo net full of drugs for survival. The two men fight as they try to climb the net back up to the plane, Bond stealing Nekros' knife, cutting the drugs free, and after a tense tug of war with Bond's boot, Bond cuts his laces free and Nekros and his dummy fall to his death. Bond is able to climb back aboard. Kara closes the cargo hold, and Bond realizes the bomb is still aboard before he disarms it. Bond gets back to the cockpit just in time to save them from flying into a mountain. This is like one too many, almost deaths.
Okay, I was going to say, this is one of those things going back to that 30 years of James Bond documentary, because they talk about this bit in detail, don't they? I don't think it is a dummy. I think they have hidden parachutes, don't they? So it is actually done for real.
It is done for real, and he does parachute it, but there is a cutaway to a dummy, and it's
right,
great.
and the oh no,
yeah, exactly. And if
the Wilhelm scream.
If there is one complaint I have about this movie, in terms of that movie making, it's that the two times there's major falls, like it's very clearly there's like an insert of a dummy, and we've been talking about this since time immemorial on this show. We don't need it. I'm fine with just the other shot of him falling when it's an actual real person. I don't need the extra. I'm not that dumb.
You're not a dummy.
But no, you're right. They did have the actor do it himself and the stuntman as well. And it's very cool looking when it's not so obvious. And that whole fight, them hanging off the cargo net, is like breathtaking filmmaking. And it's one of those, we've talked about it before, like they don't do this nowadays. And I'm not saying they should be putting people in danger, because clearly this is once again another amazing stunt for them. It's very cool.
The bit when Bond manages to re-enter the plane, though, that looks like it really hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really, because he like flops. It does not look comfortable, and that's fully Dalton. So like,
My hot take is I think that's where they should have ended the scene because I think it goes a little long with the whole Bond gets back in the cockpit and
Now you
saves them
have
from
to.
hitting a mountain.
If you've got an inexperienced pilot, you have to
right.
almost crash into a mountain. It's
And
the
and
Where'd
as
that
I
mountain come from?
exactly. And as I was saying before, once again, it's crazy that he leaves her in charge. She's a jealous. He's like, just keep it steady.
But
Like
would you
leaves.
have trusted her to defuse the bomb?
Well, there's that. You have a point.
I mean, she's good with her hands, so who knows?
That's true.
Back on the ground, Shaw and his men are on the run, but Bond flies the plane back around and uses the bomb he just disarmed to blow up a bridge, killing several Russians and saving Mujahideen. Ha! I said a word. However, even in their escape, Bond realizes they are losing fuel as one of the engines was hit in the skirmish. Of course it was. The propellers stop and Bond demands Kara return to the Jeep in the cargo hold. Knowing there's nowhere safe to land, he ejects the Jeep out of the back. They land looking amazing and the plane crashes, exploding. Bond then drives them towards Karachi in Pakistan so they can have dinner.
I saw a thing on the internet. I wish I'd come up with this because it really amused me. But somebody had said, like, I have trouble getting into nightclubs wearing trainers. Yet James Bond can walk into a restaurant in Karachi with no boots on.
Yeah, that's a solid point. I didn't even think about that.
With one boot on, sorry.
I was gonna say he had a boot, so he went 1 foot first.
No, that's very
Ugh.
true. I didn't even think about that. He's missing a shoe.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
will say some of this sequence a little silly. I liked it, but if they needed to cut for time, I would get rid of this part.
I love the Jeep landing though. The Jeep landing is so cool. And once
This
again,
is just them showing off. It's
right,
fun.
exactly. Physics probably not the way it would work in real life,
No.
but a very cool moment. They do land looking amazing though. They do not land like they just came out of the back of a plane. Like the wind has blown through. Like his hair is perfect, her hair is perfect.
It is like waking up from a soap opera in a
Right.
coma situation. They look amazing.
Back in Morocco, Felix Leiter and his compatriots give Bond surveillance advice as to how to break into Whitaker's compound, where the sad man is replaying a Civil War battle the way he would have fought it. Bond explains he destroyed the drugs, burning $500 million. Whitaker retrieves a submachine gun and opens fire, and then grabs a machine gun with bulletproof glass attached. The two men fight in the darkened museum until Bond places his keychain behind a bust of Napoleon, exploding it and killing Whitaker. Suddenly, Pushkin enters, rescuing Bond, and Koskov runs in, feigning ignorance. But Pushkin orders his death. Bond asks what should be done with Kara, as she's also considered a defector. Dun dun dun.
Only for us to cut to Kara as a featured soloist in France. She's the toast of the classical world as M introduces Kara to General Gogol, explaining she now has diplomatic visa and can travel back to Russia whenever she wants. Just then, Shaw and his men arrive, explaining they were late due to trouble at the airport. M also introduces Gogol to Shaw, and Kara excuses herself to her dressing room, where Bond is waiting with 2 fresh martinis. He pulls Kara onto his lap as the pretenders start to play.
You didn't think I'd miss this performance, did you?
At the end of the credits, we're told that James Bond will return. The end. I love, this is very sitcom-y, but it's very much just like, and here's all the characters. Like, here's everybody that you just met. It's almost a curtain call.
I mean, you might as well. Sitcoms were doing it all the time at this point.
Important points that are with a cameo from John Barry conducting the orchestra at the end as
Yes.
well.
Thank you
Yeah.
for mentioning that, because
Yeah.
I knew it's in there, and I totally forgot to put it in the notes. Thank you so much. John Barry himself conducting the orchestra.
Oh,
I also
that's
I also
lovely.
I also
Rococo variations by Tchaikovsky, isn't it?
yes, and it's beautiful. It's so funny because I've kind of no, it wasn't John Barry. I made fun of Marvin Hamlish a little bit for his no, it is John Barry. Sorry, because it's all the classical music for Moonraker. I've made fun of John Barry a little bit before for his like kind of pedestrian taste in classical music, and I think he does a little bit better in this film. But it's still Mozart. There's a lot of Mozart here, but I like him using the Tchaikovsky
Yeah,
at the
I'm
end.
not sure that he would be choosing that anyway, would he? I
That's
think,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, that might be music supervisor territory.
But I mean, I imagine if he was conducting it, he would have picked that piece though, and he does a good,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I would hope so. I would hope that he got to have a hand in it. Final thoughts on the film. I really like this one. I think it's a very smart handover to Dalton. And as I said before, Miriam Dalbo kills it as a Bond girl. And yeah, it's good. It's a good way to introduce his character. Thoughts from either of you?
But I think it's, as you know, it's my favorite of all the Bond films, and as I was probably, so it must have been 1992 when I saw it, because it was on TV before that 30 years of James Bond thing. So I would have been 8. So I try not to give away my age, but yes, I would have been 8. So I think it's quite strange that that an 8-year-old would find this film have such a connection. Maybe it's a lifelong connection. I must have been very strange.
It's okay. We all imprint on weird films when we're young,
Yeah.
especially if you were born in the 1900s like us.
Yes.
The other funny thing that, because one of my other favorite films of all time is The Fugitive, which also has Jerome.
Yes.
Go on, say his name for me.
It's your own Krabby.
Krabby, yeah.
And it's the first of all, I love The Fugitive. The I don't care is the best,
Yeah.
one of the best lines. But yeah, I agree with Chels. I think you imprint on what you imprint on, and that and sort of the whole goal of this show has been trying to figure out why James Bond has made such an impression on me, why it makes such an impression on other people. And there is just something magical about these films, regardless of whichever one you start with. And yeah, I could totally see falling in love with it. Now, if you'd said your first one was License to Kill and therefore or your second one was License to Kill and therefore you loved it, I'd be like, okay, well, you're maybe a little
Well,
crazy.
I think I did watch that when I was probably about 10. And it's that is not suitable viewing for a 10-year-old.
No.
Generally is.
It is so violent. It is. I mean, there's definitely, it has its charm. The Wayne Newton of it all. Can't wait for you to meet Wayne Newton, Chels.
Oh,
But it just will never be one of my favorites. It's
But I didn't like it so much when I was that young, and then but I have come to like it. I think we're diverging here from the subject, aren't we? But I think Benicio del Toro in it is phenomenal.
exactly.
My
Like
man.
truly terrifying.
Also, not to be stereotypical, but you are a dad now, and License to Kill is a very dad James Bond movie.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is I should watch License to Kill with a few small beers.
Yes, a few small beers. Correct.
Yeah. Well, actually, as you mentioned that, because my daughter's called Teresa after the after the
Oh my God, that makes
the
me want to
wife,
cry.
the wife of James Bond, and because my wife's Spanish, so we always pick Spanish. Well, we're speaking of them, and we're considering Guadalupe for the next one. So
Oh my
there's
God,
also a Bond connection there from
Michael,
License
I
to
love
Kill.
you.
Oh, love that.
You're great. All right then, and Chels. Sorry, Chels. I didn't get it. How do you feel about Loading Daylights?
It is very good. Like, if we're gonna Batman Begins this, I like the direction it is in. It sounds like I'm in for quite the ride in our next film. Maybe we'll break this up with one of my fake James Bond movies after. We'll just go 180. But I had a nice time. I know we're gonna talk about the only Bond woman, but you know what? For a cellist, she does pretty good spy work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a good ally. Yeah, in terms of all the stuff that we normally talk about, the Bond women, we really only have Kara to talk about. And I will say, as much as I appreciate what they're attempting to do by staying current, you can still cast other women. We basically get our one Russian woman at the beginning who's our queer-coded baddie, but our goodie, I guess technically.
I
But
love her.
but yeah, outside of that, I feel bad. Miriam Dabo sort of has to carry all of the Bond ladiness on her shoulders for most of this
Mhm.
film. But I think she's great.
She
Um,
is really great, and she's a great actress. Good for her.
in terms of villains, we have Koskov, Necros, Whitaker, and I guess Pushkin, even though he's
Sort
not
of.
really, he's not really a villain. Kind of. Uh,
He is a villain in The Princess Diaries too, though, so it counts.
and actually, canonically, that is a sequel to this. So
It
it's
is. We'll be
a
covering
little,
it in
yeah,
20 years.
little unknown fact. Um, yeah, I. This is just me speaking for myself. You two can have your opinion in a moment. I think the villains are actually the weakest part of this movie. Kaskov is fun. He's really fun.
He is
Whitaker,
obvious, though. That's
he's
my
obvious.
thing.
Yeah. I love Jodan Baker. Jodan Baker, funny enough, Chels, you're gonna see him again too. Not as this character. He's he, it's fine.
Glad he
He
got
didn't leave
paid.
it. Yeah. And Necros, the silent
Sure.
pretty type, I guess. Fills out a Speedo well. Like,
I watch soap operas again.
yeah.
Impressed me.
How do you feel about any of these villains, Michael?
Like the sort of sliminess of Koskov.
Yeah.
And I like the, you know, the delusions of Whitaker, like you say, about when he's got his gallery, his rogues gallery, and he's there with Hitler and Genghis Khan and all of those guys. I think it's quite clever.
Well, I was gonna say that's maybe the best part is him. Once again, we're leaning into the Man with the Golden Gun territory, but a villain who has a wax museum. And I love that all the wax figures are him. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a nice touch because it's so vain. I feel bad. I understand why they cast Jodan Baker, but like I want somebody else in that role.
Yeah.
I want somebody who's really gonna chew the scenery, and he's kind of subdued. He's fun, but
I do think that final scene with his death scene is quite
Yeah.
is a fun one, with all these sort of, I don't know, you'd hide behind that British vulture Wellington. And all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. And then gadgets. We actually have so many gadgets in this movie, which is funny that they always talk about wanting to like draw the gadgets back. There's actually a ton in this movie. So many of them are just binoculars. There's the binoculars, the cigarette case, binocular glasses. You have the Aston Martin itself, the boombox, rocket launcher, the hungry couch, and the exploding keyring. Does anybody have any favorites amongst these gadgets?
Well, the Aston Martin's a great car, isn't it?
It's beautiful
It's
too.
great. I was waiting for her to come back. It's been so long. I will say it almost feels like the binocular cigarette case is an anti-smoking PSA for Ronald Reagan's America.
Yeah.
But then on the reverse of that, he smokes so much, and I remember that being a Roger
They
Moore
should smoke
sticking.
more.
Well, Roger Moore's whole thing was, I'm not going to be Connery. I won't smoke cigarettes. I'll smoke a cigar. And I love that Dalton was like, no, I'm going back to cigarettes, and you will
Yeah.
see me once a scene with one.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if you consider as well the tuxedo with the bit of Velcro, then
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
that's the best gadget.
That really is.
It's the most style. It truly is the most stylish. Shout out to Hungry Couch, though. Come on, who doesn't need a couch that eats people? Like,
I wonder what happens to him.
yeah,
Did he
that's
get digested?
you never see that guy again. We have a very good pension plan here at the Q Division. A very good workman's comp. Also, I know we all have like Find Your Phone nowadays, but the keyring, the like whistle to find where your keyring is actually kind of a fun idea, and I'm a little surprised it didn't take off more.
Honestly, something like that, maybe if it just smoked blue instead of things exploding in the long run, I think that would be more helpful to me than a tiny beeping noise.
Yeah, yeah. And bonus round, we started this in Roger Moore's era, but I think we're going to continue it. We're going to talk about Dalton's outfits, returning from A View to a Kill and Octopussy, just to create sort of that continuity. And I think also because John Glenn continues to direct these, you have costume designer Emma Porteous, costume supervisor Tiny Nichols. You have a new tailor in Benjamin Simon and others, But also, and I think this is very funny, you have a credit for costumes made by Bermans and Nathans, and that's because the first time you see Bond in a tux in the movie, it is just his leftover dinner jacket from his last film, Brenda Starr. And I think that's such a funny thing that they were just like, you know what, you got it, it fits you, put it on. I've included a little montage of images below. Do any of you have a favorite in terms of Dalton's looks here?
I like the 3-piece suit that he wears to M's office.
Yes.
You know, the clothes again are one of those things that get criticized a bit because they obviously and even more so in License to Kill actually, but because it's very sort of like late 80s, early 90s relaxed fit.
Yes.
Sometimes, but not in this case. I think that 3-piece suit in particular is really nice. I also like his lighter one that he uses when he's with Pushkin.
Yes, yeah. If I agree on the M's office one, that's my favorite. My second favorite is the like blazer tie combination when he goes to see her in the orchestra. I think that there he looks, because there's something about him that does feel both formal and casual, where Roger Moore could pull off both, but it had to be very specific looks, and Connery always just looked best really kind of formal. There's something about that Dalton looks relaxed even in formal wear that I like, that is not I don't think you associate with James Bond, but he really pulls it off.
And one thing I forgot to mention about the M scene is that I really love the sigh and side eye that he does.
Yes.
Love that.
M hates this man so much.
I mean, rightfully so. I will say, as the lowbrow of this podcast, I love all of this casual wear because he is so hot in it. Like, truly, put this man in a black shirt, that's all you need? Oh my gosh. He's devastatingly hot.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, he pulls it off. There's something, a relaxed quality about him that really, if I had to complain, the one place I would complain is the leftover dinner jacket from Brenda Starr, because that's, to me, looks like it doesn't fit him very well. And I don't know what he did in between the films, if he lost some weight but that's the one where I'm like, okay, guys, take it in. Like, you look like a box. Well, that's it for The Living Daylights. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. Please tell our other agents where they can find you online and what you've been doing. Please advertise some of the films you've been working on, if you can.
Thanks very much for having me. A pleasure as always. And, like I say, always like to catch up about James Bond and particularly Living Daylights. You can find me on Instagram. That's at mikebarker.me. That's spelled D-O-T, Mike Barker, D-O-T, me. That's where I am. And I've had lots of stuff on. I'm currently working on a documentary about homelessness in Stoke-on-Trent, which is where I'm from originally. It's a very a project close to my heart, and it's very exciting to be working on, amongst many other things.
The last time I went to England, I went to Stoke-on-Trent.
Oh, did you really?
Very briefly, but yeah, I was. Yep. So that's very cool.
Are you a pottery fanatic?
I do. Funny enough, I actually do really like the pottery show. The specifically the Great Pottery Throwdown. Which stopped airing here, and for me to continue on the seasons, I've had to pirate it. So yeah. So
do you need my VPN?
I have a VPN.
Stream it over there.
Yeah. I should. Sometimes they make you make an account, and I don't want to do that. So
I made an account. It was very easy.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. That's amazing. I know in between you being on the episode, because it's been about 6 months, a lot of your stuff played film festivals, you won some awards. So congratulations on that. And you're such a good guest. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And with that, it's case closed on The Living Daylights. Thank you for listening to the Q Division. If you'd like to listen to our previous episodes, we are available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please make sure to rate and review our show while you're there. You can also find us on Blue Sky and Instagram at QDivisionPod on both, or you can email us at qdivisionpod@gmail.com. Chels, please remind the agents where they can find you.
I am Chels725 on the Blue Sky, Serialized, which is like TV Letterboxd. I am not going to use Letterboxd for TV. God, no. I don't need to see anybody's television opinions over there. But I am occasionally on real Letterboxd, like when I choose to be perceived. And then you can hear me on Across the Whoniverse with Paige. We are covering all of the new Who era and then many excursions into fun Doctor Who things like the audios or the comic books. Everyone, go check it out. But then also and a Rewatch Pod and the spinoff My Stories Are On, where we talk about new TV shows. And then I have made so many appearances on Fear Coded, Gimmicks, Screonk. I've done 2 Godzillas now. Was on Distant Echoes for a bonus episode covering a Star Wars comic book. It was a lot of fun. And then I was recently on The World According to Glenn. I have done 2 Glenn Close television movies, and one was good and one was insane.
Amazing. And as for me, my declassified account is it's Gavin. That's SHHITSGAVIN on Blue Sky. And you can find more of me on Instagram at GavinMev. You can also find my other long-running film podcasts at The Mixed Reviews on any podcast platform, co-hosted by my good friend Louis Rondon. To find more information about The Mixed Reviews, please visit glitterjaw.com/mix-reviews. And until next time, we hope to have left you shaken, not stirred.
I don't think he's very good at whistling, Rule Britannia either. That is,
No.
you know, I'd be like, I wouldn't recognize it.
He is such a... I genuinely feel bad he only got 2 Bond movies because I think he could have bet. I'll save it for the show.
Yeah, let's not use up old material.
Exactly.
Yeah.